Hello friends, welcome to my new video, and this video is about the reasoning questions with answer of autonomic nervous system. So let us start. Sympathetic nervous system is known as thoracolumbar outflow. Why? Because the preganglionic neurons are situated in the lateral gray horn of 12 thoracic and first two lumbar segments of the spinal cord, so that sympathetic nervous system is known as thoracolumbar outflow. Second question is that parasympathetic nervous system is known as craniosacral outflow. Why? Because the fibers of parasympathetic nervous system that arises from the brain and sacral segments of the spinal cord, so that it is known as craniosacral outflow. Now sympathetic nervous system is known as catabolic nervous system. Why? Now whenever there is a stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system, there are a certain actions occurs like that relaxes accommodation and dilates pupil, means letting more light into the eye, then increases heart rate and blood pressure, so that providing better perfusion of the vital organs and muscles. Then it also constricts the skin blood vessels that limits bleeding from the wounds and also decreases the threshold in the reticular formation, so reinforcing the alert and arousal states. Then it also increases the blood glucose and free fatty acid levels, so that supplying more energy. So because of these actions, the division of the autonomic nervous system of means sympathetic nervous system is sometimes known as catabolic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system or cholinergic division of the autonomic nervous system is known as anabolic nervous system. Why? Now parasympathetic nervous system, it is concerned with the vegetative aspects of day-to-day living life. For example, its action that favors the digestion and absorption of the food by increasing the activity of the intestinal musculature and increasing the gastric secretion and relaxing pyloric sphincter. Then it dilates sexual erectile tissues. Then it also slows down body activities by decreasing the heart rate and force of contraction. And it also favors the storage of the absorbed nutrients by increasing glycogen synthesis and insulin secretion. Therefore, parasympathetic nervous system is also known as anabolic nervous system, or it is also known as nerves of tomorrow. Now adrenal medulla, it is a modified sympathetic ganglion. How? So adrenal medulla and sympathetic division that develops from the same neural crest, and their secretion and functions are almost the same. Now any increase in the sympathetic activity increases the secretion of the catecholamines from the adrenal medulla. Now adrenal medulla is innervated by the splanchnic nerves whose fibers end around the medullary cells that are known as preganglionic fibers. And these fibers are myelinated type B secretomotor fibers which come out from the lower thoracic segment, means T5 to T9 of the intermediolateral gray column of the spinal cord. Now the nerve endings that are present in the adrenal medulla are the cholinergic preganglionic sympathetic fibers that synapse directly on the chromaffin cells. Now this fiber transfers the splanchnic nerves and are myelinated type B secretomotor fibers, emanating mainly from the lower thoracic segments T5 and T9 of the ipsilateral intermediolateral gray column of the spinal cord. So, adrenal medulla is a sympathetic ganglion in which the postganglionic neurons have lost their axon and become secretory cells, and these cells secrete when stimulated by preganglionic nerve fibers that reach the gland via splanchnic nerves. So, these are the preganglionic cholinergic fibers and these are the splanchnic nerves, and this one is a adrenal medulla, and these are the adrenaline containing cells. Now parasympathetic fibers are commonly known as cholinergic fibers because the neurotransmitter at their postganglionic nerve terminal is acetylcholine, so that parasympathetic fibers are also known as cholinergic fibers. When the sympathetic fibers are stimulated, parasympathetic fibers are usually or automatically inhibited. Why? So this is due to heterotropic feedback. Now when the noradrenaline is secreted from the sympathetic nerve terminal, part of this noradrenaline enters a neighboring cholinergic nerve to inhibit it. The term catecholamines include all the three amines: adrenaline, noradrenaline and dopamine. Because all the three compounds chemically are amines and have catechol nucleus. Sympathetic activity is spread over many segments. Now upon entering the sympathetic chain, preganglionic fibers that travel upwards or downwards to form the sympathetic contacts with the ganglionic neurons in other ganglia. Therefore, sympathetic activity is spread over many segments. The enteric nervous system is also known as mini brain. Why? The enteric nervous system contains all the elements of the nervous system: sensory neuron, motor neuron and interneurons, leading to it being referred to as a mini brain. Now the sensory neurons innervate the receptors in the mucosa that respond to mechanical, thermal, osmotic and chemical stimuli, and motor neurons that control motility, secretion and absorption by acting on the smooth muscle and secretory cells. And interneurons integrate information from the sensory neurons and feed back to the enteric motor neurons. Now the parasympathetic activity is localized. Why? So in parasympathetic nervous system, very few connections that link the preganglionic neurons. Moreover, the parasympathetic postganglionic neurons are located within the organ to be controlled, and therefore the parasympathetic effect is localized and target is usually only a single organ or system. Now sympathetic or hypogastric nerve is known as nerve of filling. So the stimulation of the sympathetic or hypogastric nerve that causes relaxation of the detressor muscle and constriction of internal sphincter. It results in filling of the urinary bladder, and so the sympathetic nerve is known as nerve of filling. Parasympathetic nerve is known as nerve of emptying or nerve of micturition. Why? So stimulation of the parasympathetic or pelvic nerve that causes contraction of the detressor muscle and relaxation of the internal sphincter that leads to emptying of the urinary bladder. In Horner syndrome, there is a ptosis. Why? So first of all, what is ptosis. So ptosis means dropping down of upper eyelid, and that is due to paralysis of Muller's muscles of the upper eyelid. Now in Horner syndrome, there is a damage or injury to cervical sympathetic chain. So that in Horner syndrome, there is a ptosis. In Horner syndrome, there is a meiosis. Why? So in Horner syndrome, there is a damage or injury to cervical sympathetic chain, and meiosis means small pupil, and that is due to paralysis of dilator pupillae muscle. In Horner syndrome, there is a facial anhydrosis. Why? So in Horner syndrome, there is a damage or injury to cervical sympathetic chain. And what is the facial anhydrosis? Means reduced sweating on the ipsilateral face and neck. Now, if any questions regarding this topic, then please write down in comment section. Now, if you like my video, then press the like button and subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon. Thank you very much.